Good morning everyone, this is Gillian. I'm uploading this video, excuse the shaking, because I don't have a stand, I've just got my iPad in my hand. This is the first part of my project, which is from Melanie Brummer, her Upcycled Cloth Collective, which you can find out about from her Facebook page of the same name. Melanie is an artist in South Africa, I believe, who does this wonderful printing onto vintage fabrics, and she sent me a few different fabrics and lots of artists around the world, not that I'm counting myself as an artist, but lots of people around the world to upcycle. So as I'm very much enjoying making journals at the moment, I thought I would make these into a journal. So this journal is made out of a cardboard box. Can't remember what the box was. And I have sandwiched the cardboard of the box in between the fabric and some craft papers that I already had in my stash, and the colours in this particular pack I thought went beautifully with Melanie's fabric. I've got the lace trim which I've glued on, and the signatures are tied in with some fancy threads, and I've just made a dangle at the side with some little gems and charms. So on this first page, the inside page, I've loosely chosen 60s hippie vibe things for this journal, because I think that's what came to me when I first saw Melanie's fabrics, although some of them, especially when they're cut like this one, also reminds me of the 1930s. So this one I've cut out around the print. I've mounted it onto cardboard, and then I've made a pocket of that so you could put anything into that pocket. The bookmark I made by mounting Melanie's fabric on a little bit of more fabric just to give it a little bit more substance, and then backed it with some of the craft paper, machine stitched it on. I've done lots of machine stitching in this book, and just happily and coincidentally, Melanie's signature on her fabric just landed there on the bookmark, which I thought was perfect. So there's lots of pages that are just the craft paper, and then this is a larger piece of the other fabric that formed the pocket on the page before. And oh look, I hadn't even noticed that there's M for Melanie in the corner of that page. It's the first time I've seen that. I wanted to use the paper, but it's the fabric, but it's quite a thin cotton fabric, and it would be too loose to be a journal page. So what I've done is backed it onto tracing paper, because I didn't want to lose the pattern on the reverse side of the fabric. So I've machine stitched that on, and so you could journal onto that page and still see the lovely pattern through. On this page I've glued a piece of fabric onto card, machined it into the book to make a pocket, and this is an envelope that I printed out off the internet and folded. Again, I just thought it was pretty, and the colourway went with this journal. I've made a further pocket here from again 60s inspired. There's Twiggy, and I think maybe one of these others is Jean Shrimpton, not sure. And I've put a little booklet that I made into that pocket. I've chosen, the images that I've chosen and printed are all sort of 60s hippie, love child type theme, so all you need is love is a pretty obvious one to me from the 60s. and that one I thought, I love the words, but also I thought the colour scheme went really well. Another piece of fabric that Melanie has gifted me is a tie-dye, and I was going to use it in this journal, which is partly why I chose this paper to print out, but it's so beautiful. It's one tie-dye in the middle of quite a large piece of fabric, and so instead of incorporating that into this journal, I'm going to make a tote bag with that. Some of the pages are edged with these gathered trims. This one is a fabric one, and it has a tiny little sparkle on a pin. More of the pretty Just Craft pages. This was an image from the internet that I can't remember. Oh yeah, it's Gray. The artist is Gray. Can't remember his first name, but very spiritual, and the colourways were perfect in here. Another pocket made from a quite spiritual looking image, and another image in here that I've attached with a, I think it's called a brad, to this piece of craft paper, which can be journaled on at the back. They both can be journaled on, and that one can be kept secret if that's what you'd like to do. Lovely piece of swirly paper in colours that really remind me of the 60s. This edging is some of the craft paper gathered and machined on. Little just a collage with a few bits and pieces there. This middle of the first signature is again from the same craft paper book, and I just loved it with the elephants marching across, so that's why I made it the middle signature. I like tracing paper in the books because it makes a lovely sound. There's a button that's dropped off. Another piece of the fabric, edging that page. Another spiritual image representing Kundalini rising through the chakras. Definition of the word hippie. Promotes love, peace and happiness. Some symbols from the kind of flower power, peace and love days of the 60s. Another pocket made similar to the first one I showed you, with the fabric mounted onto card, just the ribbons are placed differently. And that's the other side of that piece of fabric with the tracing paper backing. And that's the last page in this signature. I do need to sort out this way with the signatures a bit, because when I've done it before I've used elastic and that holds it in place more. I've also stitched signatures before, and well, that is the firmest way to do it. Now this middle signature is just literally this one double page, and when I was first trying to work out how to stiffen this beautiful fabric, I glued it to tracing paper, and when it started crinkling up I was really disappointed, but then when it dried, it really, I love the effect. It's a lovely sound as well as looking pretty. That's got just a little dangle there, and what I did was folded the fabric up after it was on the tracing paper and made pockets, and with some vintage lace here, and then realised the pockets would be perfect for pens and pencils and things. So I really love that central signature. And third and final signature, page made in the same way with tracing paper, with this lovely printing on it. Another saying. I love my words and my sayings, they're very meaningful to me. On this page, this sort of zodiac image is made as a a wide band, so you can put anything you'd want to into there. More of the paper piece, just cut out and glued on. Lots and lots of writing space, very similar to the first signature. On this page I've made a belly band, again with the purpley print fabric, and edged on card and edged with the ribbon. And then I've made a little booklet, Good Vibes, reminds me of the 60s vibes. And I've just, I've just popped it in on the band like that. So if you wanted to, you could take that out. If you were going somewhere and you particularly knew you wanted to jot out some notes, you could take that out, take it with you, tiny little booklet, make your notes, and then put it into your journal when you come home. More of the lovely paper. The centre of this signature, again, I love it. Meraki, to do something with soul, creativity or love, leaving a piece of yourself into what you are doing. In all my crafting and sewing and things that I do, I am very aware that I do that because my soul soars when I'm crafting and making and designing. A tuck spot here with the fabric glued to card again, and to a piece of the craft paper. This is a pocket, again in colour and design that I thought went really well with Melanie's fabric. Look through here. All you need is love, from the Beatles, with a finger pointing in that direction to the words of the song. Really epitomises the 60s, I think. And that's the last note, second to last page in the final signature. And then in the back cover, this tiny little pocket is because I didn't want to cut the design off of that fabric. And then here is a full pocket that you can tuck things into. So I'm hoping that this YouTube video has now worked well. It's my third attempt. Because I know Melanie is anxious for people to share what they've made with her lovely fabrics, and so that's what I intend to do with this. Bye everybody.